We're going to talk about a subject that is very near and dear to my heart because it significantly transformed my life, which is fitness. Today, we're specifically going to talk to an expert in fitness. This guy, his name is Kawan Karadagi. He owns and operates 3 Anytime Fitness locations, and he's just looking to expand and grow and open even more. And I'll introduce him to you in a second. But fitness completely transformed my life, right? A lot of you guys know my story. 6-7 years ago, I was 260 pounds. Over the course of 6 to 8 months, a mentor helped me to release that weight from my body, to help me feel better about myself, to help me fit into my clothes better, to help me feel good when I looked into the mirror, which allowed me to really just be happy with who I was. Up until that point, I went through a lot of pain. I went through a lot of uncertainty. And my fitness, my lack of fitness, really influenced every other area of my life in a negative way. But once I started to focus on it, and once I started to consciously realize that becoming more fit would change my life, it completely did. It transformed my life in practically every area. So today we're going to be talking with Kawan to help you to reinvent your life through fitness as a medium. And for those who don't know Kawan Karadagi, after many years of trials and self-discovery, Kawan stumbled into fitness. He owns and operates 3 gyms and counting, Anytime Fitness, which is actually the gym that I went to for many years. And he also hosts his own podcast, Valueverse, as well as his Instagram channel, which you guys definitely need to go check out. Some awesome content on there where he talks about the stories of mastery, growth, and success. Kawan, what a pleasure to have you on here. Thanks so much for your time, brother.
Brandon, thank you, man. Wow, what an intro. I just subscribed to your show. Really love the content and the contribution you're making. Thank you.
Same, right back to you, brother. And I got to ask you, so in your bio, you say that you had many years of trial and error and self-discovery. So tell me more about that trial and error, and tell me more about how you kind of stumbled into fitness. What did that look like?
Great question. I started off as, very, very directionless in life and, just wandering about, trying to figure it all out and make sense of things, really. I got to a point where I was just faced with a few decisions that I had to act upon, which was finding myself and seeing where I wanted to end up and what I wanted to do. It literally took someone knocking on my door to say, hey, do you want to go for a run? And is that something you want to do? And it just showed up on my doorstep, man. And I answered the call, as simple as that sounds. And I just stepped up to it and I ran, and I was in, so much pain. And I got kind of like, sort of the theme of the podcast. I wanted to be better. I wanted to improve a little bit. I wanted to get stronger at this thing because it just floored me completely. So I started just easing into it, just a little by little, going into it and going there. And little did I know it was a quest that I would embark on for until this day. So it still leads me into a lot of finding out and learning more. I don't think that really ever stops, but that's kind of it. I just stuck with it. And then I eventually joined a gym, and my friend, George, he mentored me and guided me into much like the story that you and I talked about, that you kind of experienced, that helped me find my way. And it's never until you make the solid decision for yourself to say, this is something that I want to do, and I'm going to stick with it. And I want this more than anything else. And that's when I just did that, Brandon. I just committed to myself that I had higher standards for myself, and I wanted to actualize those goals.
It's so fascinating that one moment when your friend knocked on your door and said, hey, do you want to go for a run, is the moment that stuck in your mind. Because I believe that it comes down to a moment in time where we make a decision that impacts the rest of our life. And you specifically said, it was a calling. And it's funny that it was your friend knocking on your door, because for me, I was driving home with a couple buddies. His name is Ray and my friend Shane. And we were driving home, and this was, I was 21 years old. And we were driving back. We just went and did something. We hung out, and it's like 9 p.m. and I'm about ready to go back home and go to bed. And he's like, I'm going to be up for a bit. And we're like, well, what are you going to be doing? He's like, well, I'm going to the gym. He's like, do you guys want to go work out with me? And I was like, man, I don't have the clothes with me. I don't really even have gym clothes. He's like, well, you can wear what you're wearing right now. He's like, why do you got to wear something special? And I was like, yeah, man, but it's late and I don't know what's my fiance going to think, who's my wife now. And he's like, dude, she's not going to care. I've known Bree since we were like 15 years old. And I was like, okay, let's go to the gym. And it was like a moment where it was that moment that I just mentioned. It was like that calling. It was that serendipitous moment, but that was the moment that changed the rest of my life, because I went to the gym and I found for me, and I'm going to ask you in a second, like what the number one fear is of people when it comes to going to the gym and starting that membership and their number one concern. But for me, it was not knowing what I was doing. It was being around all this foreign equipment, not knowing the routine. Like when you sign up people for the gym and they're all nervous and they're there for a reason, right? They're there because they want to up their lifestyle, feel better, look better, get in shape. What's like the number one fear that people have that you've seen when it comes to starting their own fitness journey?
It's a great question. There's so many of them, but I think the whole aspect or concept of a gym is so elusive, right? You walk in, there's an intimidation factor to it. People see people working out and they say, wow, I can't, fit in here, right? Or I think social belonging, there's like a physique anxiety component to it where, so it's called social physique anxiety, which you're probably familiar with, where you just don't see yourself in this realm of people. And that's when you start to kind of, freak out and just not feel like you belong. And it's funny, but I've been working out consistently for, 10 years, and I joined another gym just to kind of see what they were doing. And I saw all these fit people because it was an unfamiliar environment. And I'll be honest, I felt that, and I'm a guy that's in and out of there all the time. And so as soon as I saw that, I said, okay, this is what it's like, right? This is what it's like when somebody walks in and sees this. They feel intimidated. They feel this anxiety, like they don't belong. And a lot of it is not knowing what you're doing, right? You walk in, you don't have a plan, you don't know what's going on, and you just you avoid it altogether because you don't want to experience that pain.
Someone who experiences that social physique anxiety, because I've never heard of that phrase before, but it definitely exists. And from me, when I was heavily overweight, and even to me now, I'll still experience that. Like when I pull, I've always been someone to like when I pull into somewhere and I know I'm there for a purpose, and especially the gym, I get this slight anxiety, especially when I see a lot of cars in the parking lot. I don't know if it's just me, but even to this day, if there's a lot of cars, like a couple of weeks ago, I actually kept driving and I worked out at home instead because I was like, I don't want to go in there. I'm going to have to find equipment. I'm going to have to worry about, am I going to have the right equipment? Is someone else going to be using it? And when I'm in there, there's people who are in much better shape who are like 20 years old and they're like ripped. They got the veins. And I'm like, dude, I've never seen the veins. Like what's going on there? Right. So I still feel that way. And I've heard from other people who look amazing where they're like, no, I don't feel that way about myself. So I feel like, do you think it's more of a mental thing than a physical thing, or what do you think it is?
I think it's a great question there. I think it's a little bit of both, and definitely environmental as well. The more accustomed you get to an environment, just the immersion process of it, the more you're going to be comfortable, right? And that's kind of in the beginning, it's psychological, and then it starts to change. It starts to metamorph into something else. But essentially, it's that that environment that you're just not familiar with. So I think it's a combination there. It definitely starts in the mind, and then in the environment, and then in your body, right? So what I used to do is I used to wear just baggy clothes, right? And I would use large t-shirts. I was super thin. I still see myself that way, and I go and I would just focus on me, and there would be nothing to look at. So I didn't allow myself the opportunity to even pay attention to my body. I hid it so that I could work on it, and then I focused on small details. So I
Mm.
said, okay, instead of this big, thing that's in there, this gym, go grab a pair of dumbbells and go over here to this corner, and then we'll figure it out. And that's what it was. It was the one little step at a time that chunks it down for you, so you can make this a measurable or achievable thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I've personally done to overcome that anxiety myself is I tell myself I don't want to do this, but I know that by doing it, I'll feel better after. And I mechanically, in a way, kind of force my body to grab my little water canister, to grab my earbuds and go into the gym. And as soon as I walk in and put my things in the locker and walk into the workout space, I'm there. Like I'm in
Mhm.
state now. I'm there for a purpose. I'm there for 45 minutes to an hour, and I know I'm going to stay. And it's almost like a feeling of catharsis when I do walk in and start and begin. For me, even to this day, like it's something that's always been there. So let me ask you this. I'm all about practical. Like, what's one thing that we can do right now when it comes to somebody who wants to have a better handle on their fitness, right? Someone who's like, I want to start going to the gym, or I want to start using this gym membership that I've been paying for 3 years that I haven't gotten around to going. What's one thing that someone can do, almost anyone can do, that will help them when it comes to their fitness and how they feel about themselves physically?
You start small, chunk it down to the smallest denominator or achievable thing that you can do. And when I say that, I'm not kidding. I mean, if you can commit to 1 minute of exercise, do that. If that's too much, 10 seconds. Like
Wow.
chunk it down so small that it's so achievable that you're almost like, oh man, it's just laughable, right? And that's the key. You want to, and people, what's hard for people to realize is like they say, well, that's not enough. And I'm like, it's okay. You're teaching a new habit. You're ingraining something or trying to form these neural pathways that just haven't been there, right? And habits take time. So what you're doing is you're building a habit, and starting off small allows you to gain that efficacy. So many times you go in and people say, well, I can't make it to the gym because I haven't eaten my protein today, and I have to work out for 2.5 hours to get any type of progress. And if I can't do that, well, this is not worth it. And I say, well, wait a second, that's not true. You can work out for, and science backs this, 15 minutes and under, and still get benefits, with high intensity interval training and whatnot. And that's kind of it. I think it's just making it very small, achievable goals until they're just so doable that you're like, I can do that. And it's just kind of shame on me if I don't do that at that point. So, and I do that to myself all the time, especially on leg day, by the way. So,
Dude, I had leg day yesterday, and I leg day it's a good day, but walking afterwards, especially going downstairs to come down here, really sucks. And I have to figure out like what I'm doing wrong when it comes to squats, man, because I was doing squats yesterday, and I'm adding like weight every single week because I'm lifting more and I'm getting stronger. But like something with my knee was weird last night, and I was like, all right, I can't. I'm 27. I can't screw around with my body. I've got to figure out this form thing and actually get good at it. And I've never had a trainer, so I think that's going to be my next step. But let's talk about that. Speaking of training and somebody who wants to make progress, and I find a lot of people start with a trainer, and I find that some people work out for years without a trainer. I mean, do you have a preference of should someone start with one? Should they have a coach? Obviously, a mentor has helped shift your life. They've helped me shift mine. What's your philosophy there around coaches and guidance?
being and still certified, being a trainer, until this day, I do have to say that it is an investment in yourself that will pay off dividends in the long run. So I would definitely recommend getting a personal trainer for a month. Even a month is great, 2 to 3 times a week. It'll just fast track you and help you to avoid so many pitfalls, gain, knowledge and efficacy, and like you said, form, and just, get you to that faster, point there, right? So they'll teach you the ins and outs. A good trainer will, and vet them out. Take your time. Ask them about their story. Ask them about their experience. How long have they been doing it? And what's their personal fitness journey? What did they go through? And once you find that click with one of them, oh, it's a game changer. I was a personal trainer when I was full time. I hired one. He was a ex-Marine, and he up leveled my game. So I learned so much from him, and I thought I already knew so much. And I've lost about 22 pounds in a month and a half.
Wow.
And he just made me do things that I hated doing, and it just was that accountability for me, and it pushed me, man. It got me better. I was stronger, and it paid off big time. So I definitely recommend getting a trainer.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I am a coach, yet I have a coach. I spend thousands of dollars every single month in coaching to help me with my business, to help me with my levels of energy. They help me virtually when it comes to fitness in certain aspects, but I've never actually invested in an actual fitness coach. And I think it's because I don't want somebody to have me and instruct me to do the things that I don't like doing, because there's a lot of things I don't like doing. And I definitely have found my comfort zone, but it's probably time to get out of that comfort zone. So let me ask you this. You talk a lot about self-mastery, right? And I have a book called Your Guide to Self-Mastery. So I find that we all have this different definition for what self-mastery even is. How would you define self-mastery, and what role has that played in your own life?
Being it that it started essentially from understanding myself, right? So self-mastery is realizing kind of the strengths and weaknesses that you have, and also calling out or finding what your life's task is, right? What is this pull that you're feeling, and where is it asking you to go? That's half the battle right there. And then there's all the stuff that comes with it, right? Is learning about what those tools are that are necessary to, acquiesce or self-realize or self-actualize that goal. And a lot of it comes from open-mindedness, having the ability to want to learn, to want to become better, to want to work on yourself, right? And being open to the process. Honesty, is a big one. Having that open conversation with yourself, and just being real honest with yourself, and what you want and what you don't want, and what you're good at and what you're not good at. And I think that's one of the first steps and it's a hard one to face, because everybody wants to be great at everything. And, there's so many great masters today that are great at a couple things, and then they just drive those points home, right? I think discipline is a big part of it. That's huge. You got to be able to have self-discipline to do those things you don't want to do, right? Sometimes, like leg day, but if you skip legs, you're gonna have small legs, and then you're gonna be this guy, right, that everyone laughs at. So no one wants to do them, but you have to do it because it leads to a better outcome, right? And then being results oriented. So always going for results, right? So if you're doing something that's not working, you got to be able to switch. You got to be able to say, this thing isn't doing it for me. I got to revisit the drawing board and recalibrate. The beautiful thing about fitness, and why I'm always all about it, is the mirror doesn't lie, and the weights never lie. It's, you can either do it or you can't. You either look the part or you don't. And that's kind of it. It's just very black and white like that. And yes, there's some points where, there's 11 components to fitness. However, there's some things that you just can't fib, right? And that's that process that you got to hold yourself to, where the light is just on you and you can't hide, right? Being proactive, and then I think that's the key as well, is being an advocate for yourself. Just going and doing things proactively instead of waiting around saying, well, I want to be better. Well, then you got to like you said, go to the gym with your friends that night. That changed everything.
Absolutely. And it comes down to those daily rituals, which I've heard you talk about too, which I want to touch on. I do want to touch on something you just said there when it comes to that inner pull, because I wanted to talk with you about self-discovery. And you say, well, that inner pull that you have, where is that leading you? What does that look like? What's the next step for you in terms of clarity and so on and so forth? So when did you discover that inner pull? And I guess it's I don't really know how to word this question, but let's start there. When did you discover that inner pull, and what direction was it pulling you in?
Thank you. It basically, I'm not the sharpest guy around, right? It's taken me, I mean, trial and error to learn and relearn things over and over again, which I came to find was one of the things in working out that never stops. You go in, you fail, or you can't achieve something, you go home, you rest, you become stronger, you become better, you show up the next day and repeat this process over and over and over again. And such is life, right? It's just every day is like that. And I noticed when I was younger, so going off that point, I'm not the sharpest guy. I'm good at recognizing patterns, right? Which is something that I'm very thankful for. I can see them after a certain amount of time. I'm like, okay, this is showing up over and over and over again. What does this mean? And I would just notice that I was doing like push-ups in my room or sit-ups in my room, and I had these visions. I watched Rocky movies growing up, and for me, Rocky is life. But it's you see this guy that's trying to get better, and he's training, and he's down and out. And then I could never get those montages out of my head. It just stuck with me. I'm a visual learner. So that just kept showing up for me. I always pictured myself working out, training. There was this guide or this mentor that was yelling at me to do better and improve my form. And then that was the answer all along. It was pulling me, whatever that was to say, hey, look at this, right? You need to do these things here. This is something that is important. And then I found fitness. I started working out, and I said, of course it was that. And the signs are in front of us. We got to slow down to look at and pay attention to them and see them for what they are. They can come in different forms and different, signs, right? Conversations, for you, that question that your friend asked, hey, you want to go work out? It's that inquisitive, that ability to sit with it and say, I'm gonna explore this. What is this? And that's where that open-mindedness comes in. So it showed up for me at an early stage, and I just started paying attention to it more, and then it never quite left until this day. I always think about it, just that process of becoming stronger and becoming better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's super powerful. And you saying, I'm not the sharpest guy, dude, I say that all the time. Like I literally, I was just outside, and I'm still fascinated by nature. So there's this giant anthill in my yard right now. And I snapped, like when I say giant, man, I've never seen an anthill this big. And I've seen a lot of anthills, right? I hike and all that stuff. So I took a Snapchat of it and I sent it to a friend, and he's like, I feel like every time you take a Snapchat and send it to me about nature, it's like the first time you've ever been outside. And I'm like, well, dude, like I find beauty in the small things.
Mm.
And I think that we can find beauty in the small results that we get for ourselves too. But we can also find beauty in tapping into our strengths. And let me tell you, man, you don't operate 3 gyms and continue growing by not being a sharp guy. And being a sharp guy might just mean that you focused in and honed in on your strengths and what makes you special. Because I tell people all the time, I'm good at like 2 things, literally. Training people and talking are like the 2 things that I'm really good at. Everything else, I just find other people to help me with them, right? And I do my best to take care of those people. For you, what are your unique strengths, and how did you really hone in on those? And when did you decide to only really focus on those areas? Because I know that you must only be focused on those areas most of the time to be where you are.
Thank you. Yeah, for the kind words as well. And I'd love to take credit, but I owe all my credit to Dan and David, my business partners, and I had something to do with it, but very, very little. So Going back, Brandon, it never really stops, right? I look back on my younger self. I look back on where I am today, and I say, what happened? What changed? And it's one of the hardest and most cliche things, but it's just really just the daily things you do, and the concept of this compound interest, and what gets you to where we are, or where you end up eventually. And the compound interest is essentially, things that are done daily that compound over time, and that just end up in good or bad results. It can go either way. And for me, I think, to try and answer that, the strengths that I've always had was the ability to learn, and to be open to a process, and just be a lifelong learner. It never stops. The moment you think you know it all, the moment you think you're on top, and that you've made it, you're in trouble, and that's what I try to avoid all the time. Is, yeah, I call myself, a master trainer, but in the core of my being, I always look at myself as a beginner. And I think, the beauty in what you see in that anthill is being able to look at things with that beginner's mind, right?
Wow.
And to reappreciate nature as it shows different sides to you every day. One of my favorite quotes that it took me years to figure out, which I could have just threw into Google at that point, and I don't know why, but it's just one of those quotes that stuck with me, and I said, I gotta crack this, right? And going back to what you and I said, where I'm not the sharpest guy, I think is in essence, what true knowledge exists in knowing that you know nothing, right? Which is Socrates, right? It's I was like, well, what does that mean? What does true knowledge exist in knowing that you know nothing mean? It means, to me, I guess, hopefully it makes sense, but in knowing that you know nothing means that you're open to knowing everything, right? You're open to absorbing all the knowledge that there is, because if you know everything, then you know nothing, because you're not open to learning anymore.
Wow.
And that's stuck with me, because I remember it went off like a light bulb, and I was like, that's it. That's exactly it. You have to not know everything to be able to know everything that there is. You have to be open to the process of learning. And that's when it kind of went off. And that's kind of paying attention to the pull of things and what get you. So being a lifelong learner, improvement, just constantly tinkering with things, learning, being curious, being open-minded, I think are two strengths that have stuck with me until this day.
Yeah, no, I'd absolutely have to agree. And obviously fitness has played a big part in your life, to the point where you've opened gyms, you're continuing to do so. You've had to learn the game of business, which I'm sure was a completely new game for you to learn. And we've got a lot of entrepreneurs listening, and I couldn't have a conversation with you and not ask you about business. When you decided to transition from loving fitness to really diving into the business of fitness, and you mentioned you were a trainer, so that kind of gives me some insight. When, as a trainer, did you decide, I'm going to open my own gym? Like, what did that business journey look like for you?
Man, it's it goes back. So my life's been a series of questions, and that I was faced to answer, or forced to, or faced to, and it just I met my business partner at the gym. We started. He was my manager at the time, so I always had, this goes back to the curiosity thing, but I always had a interest in our general managers and people of influence or higher positions, because I always wanted to pick their brains. I go up to people all the time until this day and ask them just open-ended questions, and just to hear the thought processes. And you'd be surprised how many people don't do that. When I got hired as a trainer, I went up to the successful trainers and I said, what do I have to do to become successful like you? And wow. and I just listened. I did not pay attention. I didn't try to interject or give my opinion. I truly listened. And whatever the takeaways were, I took those. I repeated them to myself over and over and over again until I could memorize what they said. And then I applied them consistently. and I didn't stop until I got to where I needed to go. So I would stop in and I would, I would ask him questions, and I was always intrigued by him. And so we just started talking, and we started thinking about ideas and business. And um, we were like, oh, what are we going to do? Let's try this. Let's try all these different things. And, he kind of asked me, he said, you ever thought about opening up a business? And that's what led to this big discovery. And I never had. So we thought of different ideas, and then we landed on fitness and gyms. And I'll never forget, I came back one day. We had fallen out of a business that we wanted to get into, and I'm so glad it didn't happen, because it would have just made us stuck in so many ways, and that lack of ability to scale, which the Anytime Fitness model makes it so easy to do because of the name recognition and model of the way the gym works, the business works. So that happened. We were back at the drawing board, and we had stumbled upon Anytime, and I'll never forget. I came in, I said, "How's it looking?" And he said, this might work.
Yeah.
And it was all from there. It was just nonstop until this day. It just, we from going after real estate to finding, making pro formas, making business plans, figuring out cost, return on investment, profit, loss. It was just a whole new learning curve that happened. But that was kind of it in a nutshell. And then, just kind of 0 to 100 there,
How long has it been since you opened the first gym?
So the first one opened in April of 2019. And then, then we shut down in the pandemic for about 3 months, and then reopened there in I believe June of 2020.
In times of difficulty like that, because I didn't even think about that, I know that there was a lot of strangeness when it comes to gyms, having to wear masks if the gyms were even open, which it's insane to me that gyms were closed during that time, but I'm not going to go into the political direction here. How did you guys navigate through that difficult time?
Man, you have to leverage your team, right? And this is where that really is so important, because if you're alone and you don't have a mentor, coach, or business partners or team members, you're going to fall back on your training and what you know, right? And some of it's risk averse, some of it's playing safe. So we basically, just try to collect as much information as we could, and you had to act fast. So we knew that building something outdoors was going to help us, and being adaptable, being flexible to that was key. So it was just being, disciplined as a team and using each other's strengths to work together as a unit to make this happen. And that's kind of it. We saw what needed to happen, and we just had to really execute. And it was very, very stressful. And we learned a lot in the process. And it was one of the things that really just made us grow so much in that time. So adaptation is one of the most important things. It sucks, things happen all the time. And the faster you get over this hurdle and realize your new reality, and using your resources, tools to adapt to this new reality is the takeaway, is the key principle there, which is going to ultimately lead you to, moving forward or not.
Is one of your gyms completely outside?
We had about 4,000 square feet outside.
Wow.
Of the so getting that built. I mean, you could just imagine, right? They reopened, they announced the shutdown, or they re-announced the second shutdown, and that's when we had 48 hours to do it. And the amount of stress in that time was just I don't even know how to describe it. You had to put everything away. You couldn't think. You couldn't have really much emotion about it, and you can't stop emotions, right? They're going to come. But it was tough to shake. But you just had to work through all that to make it happen. and we did. So it was great.
And you had to move all of that equipment outdoors in the course of 48 hours.
So we actually bought equipment. So we bought new equipment and some used equipment and just threw it out there and made the investment and calculated the cost of how much it would cost to do all that, what that return would look like, and would this work? In the long run with the tent, we just in business you can have as many great ideas and all that, but it has to make financial sense. You got to crunch the numbers, and you got to look at them and just confront those brutal facts. As one of my favorite business books, Good to Great, says, right? You got to look at these facts and say that this is what it's going to take. It's not going to be pretty, but you have to do it. And on the other side, we'll stay open. We'll be able to keep our members happy, and we'll live to fight another day.
Hell yeah.
And that was kind of it. It was that ability to look at it from those two perspectives, saying, okay, this is going to be one of the most difficult things to go through, but on the other side is joy.
Yes. No, I respect the hell out of you guys for going through a difficult time like that, adapting and throwing even more money in during a time where a lot of people were asking, well, how can I get more money out of this, right? You took a risk by doing that. And I can only guess that was an incredible reaction from the community when you guys did that.
Yeah, thanks. It was very challenging times, and the whole process of it. Why I say, being able to be open-minded to it, and when I noticed in business that I had to translate that skill as well, because it wasn't easily transferable from being a personal trainer to being a business owner, because from each occupation you bring on the things that you learned or that were ingrained in you. And it's a lot of unlearning, right? To move to the next level. And then because each new level that you go up, as I've heard, is you're at the bottom again. And now you have to learn these new things to go. So I had to ditch that process of structure, of schedule, of sort of rigidity, right? And we were talking about the gym, and we said, we're going to build this fence. It's going to go outside. I said, fence, how are you going to put this thing around an entire building? And how are we going to get this tent on top of it? And I just couldn't see it, and that's what that power of perspective can do. Others will allow and help you to see things differently. Yeah. And that's really the benefits of team mentorship. Business partners and coaches, right? Like yourself, they see things differently, and they're able to give those to you. So, surrounding yourself with people like that's paramount. So that's kind of what led to that. We built it quickly, and then I had to get out of my own way to see it as well, right? And to work together collectively to make this goal happen.
Yeah, kudos to you for making it a reality. There was a lot of different directions we could have gone with this, and I wanted to talk about routine with you, but you've talked about routine a lot, and just what we could always talk about that another time. What I want to touch on, which came up from what you said, is it sounds like to me another turning point for you in your life and your business was meeting your business partner at the gym, right?
Right. Now,
a lot of people I've seen at the gym, including myself, I'm not going out of my way to talk with people at the gym, right? And that mindset right there of even what I just said, I didn't even consciously realize, go out of my own way to talk with someone like it's an inconvenience to me. Like that's a mindset that I'm working to shift, because I'm just recently understanding the importance of building relationships and networking and connecting. And if you didn't, do you think that you'd be where you are right now if you didn't connect with your business partner at the gym that day?
No. 100% no. And I'll tell you why. It's been a leading of meeting people that led me to meet my business partner, if that makes any sense, right? I met this guy, right? If you think about it, I think Malcolm Gladwell talks about it in Tipping Points. I think it's the book, right? And also Give and Take by Adam Grant, which is the concept of weak, dormant, and strong ties. Right, your immediate circle being your strong ties, your dormant ties, people you worked with before that you've lost touch with but are still within reach, and weak ties that are people you wouldn't normally meet, right?
Mm.
And I was in Virginia. I met my friend George. George led me to move to, Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, I met a personal trainer named Andrew. Andrew led me to meet my fitness manager, Josh. Josh led me to meet my business partner, Dan.
Wow.
So it was the culmination of these networks of people that led me to where I am. There was no way I would be where I am without meeting them, because they opened doors to different realms, right? You don't have access. I would have never moved to LA had I not met that guy in Virginia. So essentially I have him to thank as we opened that door together. I would have never met my business partner if I didn't meet my buddy Andrew, who was a personal trainer then, a master trainer. So those people, they have that ability to introduce you to new circles, new thinking, new methodologies, new networks that can just change your life if you let it. I always joke around with some of my buddies. And I say, man, if we were friends with a bunch of investors in Silicon Valley or New York, we'd be completely different people right now. And we'd probably be millions and millions of dollars richer. But that's another conversation. And it's just the power of that circle you're in. And it's a difficult thing to do, to go up and meet people and to be in those environments. But the gym is great for that, because it's just a melting pot of different people in there, and you just never know who you're going to meet in there. And that's why I feel like it's a school in and of itself.
Now I'm thinking of the person who's going to the gym and they're new to it. They want to get in shape. They want to feel better. They might be in shape. They just want to become better. How should somebody approach someone else at the gym? They're in the middle of their workout, right? But maybe they have the body type that you want, right? Maybe they look the way that you want to look. Maybe everyone's got a story, right? So there's something we can learn from everyone. And it sounds like a simple question, man, but I'm actually curious to hear what you say. How should you approach that person at the gym?
Always complimenting someone's work effort is always a good thing. Just going up and saying, I've seen you here all the time, and I'm really impressed with your work ethic and what you're doing. I'm Kawan. What's your name? And you'll be surprised. They'll appreciate somebody noticing that and seeing them. And when you compliment their effort, it makes it so that someone notices their efforts, their work in there, and just building that relationship from there, and asking them questions about their story. What got you into working so hard, and try and keep it short, because you don't want to mess up their workout at the same time. And then it's just about being in there and forging those relationships in there, and just over time. The gym is like more of a long game. You want to build those relationships as time goes on in there, because you're gonna run in and bump into people all the time.
Awesome. I personally thank you for that breakthrough, because I'm going to start doing that myself.
For sure.
I love that. I got to ask you before we talk about Valueverse, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So before we talk about Valueverse, you've mentioned like 10 books in this conversation. I know that you're a huge reader. I know that you start your mornings off with reading. I do the same thing. I'm reading a book called Company of One right now by Paul Jarvis, and I read all the time. And dude, I can't talk enough about how reading has impacted and shifted my life. And I'm not a quick reader. Like, it'll take me 45 minutes to read 10 pages, maybe longer if the font's smaller, because I'll reread paragraphs. I'll go back. I'll look at it again. What impact has reading made in your own life? And have you always been a reader?
Oh man, thank you. It's a great question. I went through a breakup in 2017, which was a particularly rough year for me. I lost my dad that year, and then not to be a downer, but just to kind of show where I was going through a lot, and I had an amazing client, and I talked to her the other day on the phone. Her name is Anne, and she kind of noticed what I was going through and the tough times that were happening, and I think I was just telling her about everything that happened, and one day she came in. She was my longest client that I ever had.
Wow.
As a personal trainer, and she always took an interest in me, and she was tough, man. She's from New York, actually. And so you couldn't say no to her. She wouldn't take no for an answer. She wasn't going to accept your excuses. There was none of that. And I loved her for that. She was tough in the bestest of ways. So she came to the session one day and with a stack of books, Brandon, and she said, you're going to read all these books and you're going to teach me about them later on in every session. And it was like that. I had read some. Now I will say I read Men's Health, which people are going to laugh, but that magazine has given me so much return on investment from just reading Men's Health as a personal trainer and person in life, because it gives you tidbits every day that allows you to stay up on technology, fitness trends. So I applied these little things daily as a trainer that allowed me to stay relevant. Going back to being a master and then a beginner, right? So the importance of constantly improving there. So I always read Men's Health, and that was from my mom that got me on that in my younger years, and it just stuck with me. But she dropped a bunch of books in my lap, man. And so I went home. I said, Ann, I don't have time to read. I'm working 15, 16 hours a day, doing clients, training clients every day. I had a restaurant job at the time, so I was working 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week sometimes. It was just terrible, right? I would never recommend doing that, and definitely sleep. But anyway, so I went and I stared at these books every day, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't bring myself to read, right? So she would come in the sessions and say, how's the reading coming along? And I said, Ann, I don't have time. And she said, you have time. You can read a couple pages or, a couple pages a day. And she made me commit. She wouldn't let you go out of the conversation without a commitment of a specific thing that you had to do.
And this is someone you were coaching, correct?
Correct.
Interesting dynamic there. I love that.
Right. I read somewhere, and I'm going to butcher it, but I think it was Tony Robbins who said, is you get ready to learn from all the students you're teaching. Right.
Wow.
And never is that so true. I've learned so much from clients. They taught me things that I would never be able to learn, which is another, important thing to realize who's in your circle there. But I was very, very thankful and grateful and lucky to have these people in my life. And so I went home, I said, I got to read this book. She's going to get on me about it. So I picked up a book. I read one page and I closed the book and I went to sleep. Right. And I said, that's it. I did it. Now I can go back and say I learned something. So it just really started like that. I started reading one page at a time. And that led to 2, that led to 3. And I said, I could read one more. And then it became a habit. I started reading. Right now I'm at about 40 to 50 pages per day.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Just to get through and learn and absorb. If you look at all the people, the greats, anybody successful, they read, man, and so I put that in 2017, I made that decision. I just said, I'm going to read every day, and I'm not going to stop reading, and I'm just going to see what happens with it. I'm just going to see where it goes. And it's been something that has changed my life. It's added so much value to me, and learning new things, new thinking, expanding your thinking, your reasoning skills, creativity, you name it.
Absolutely incredible. That just 40 to 50 pages a day. I mean, I'm reading 10 pages a day. It's taken me 45 minutes. It's just incredible at how you started small, like you've been talking about this whole time. You read a page, you went to bed, right? And then you read 2 pages, you read 3. Sometimes you might even only read 5 to 10 pages now, but you'll make up for it on a different day. And it's that concept of the small daily things that we do compound, because just listen to your vocabulary, listen to what you're able to reference. I mean, a quarter of this conversation has come from the books that we've read, right? And the words that we say come from those. Good to Great, Tipping Point, every other book we just mentioned. Quoting people, it improves your memory, and you're a visual guy, so I'm sure reading those pages paints a picture in your mind of exactly what you're reading.
Oh, 100%. And Brandon, here's the thing. It's exactly that compound interest in that. And my message to people is and one there is chunk it down. One page too much, one paragraph, you know, a couple sentences, anything. And even to this day, like I'll go out if I'm on vacation, everybody's kind of like, come on, man, get out of the room, stop reading. Okay, you're right. I'll read one page, 2 pages, and I'll leave. I'll go back to my fundamentals, because then the day's not wasted. Then you did something. And here, the second part of that is giving it enough time for those effects to take place. You need to give this at least 3 to 6 months to see any benefit from it. The first couple months, I didn't see anything. And then months 3, 4, 5, 6, even, it was a little bit. Right after about months 6 through 8, I was like, oh, okay. People were having conversations, and my mind was, okay, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about this. You're talking about this. And I'm breaking down what that conversation looks like. I'm able to reference different things because I was just able to relate to them, because your references widen, just like you said.
It's just incredible to me how that time period of 6 months seems to be a sweet spot for transformation, because you see progress after a day. You can see progress after a week. You can see progress after a month or two. But when I was on my fitness journey, it took 6 months. When I eliminated all the credit card debt that I had, it took 6 months. Everything in your life can change very quickly, and you can go through an entire transformation within 6 months, half of 1 year. It just blows my mind how that seems to be the sweet spot. And I promised you I wouldn't keep you past 9 Eastern.
Oh, no worries.
You woke up at 3:45 to be here, just so everyone can hear that. You're up normally, though, at like 5 a.m., right?
5 a.m. is usually what I try to do to get ahead of everything there. Yep.
Okay, cool. So we got to talk about ValueVerse. I know you mentioned some PDFs that you've got as a gift for listening to this interview and watching it if you're watching on YouTube. Tell me about ValueVerse. You've got a lot of people following you. You're doing a lot of incredible things, especially on Instagram. Tell me about your mission there.
Hey, thanks, Brandon. I'd love to collaborate with you as well on that and have you on. It basically, I wanted to have something where I was able to give back. It was born from the pandemic, essentially. I mean, I had so much time on my hands that I tried to use that extra time as a more of an opportunity than a detriment. So I had the time on my hands, and I said, what am I going to do? So I wanted to grow my Instagram, so I started doing that. Started engaging a lot on there. And then I said, it's not enough. I want to add more value. How do I do this? And I procrastinated for about a year. And then I finally said, well, this podcasting thing, this sounds great. And maybe this is something I can do. And then, so value essentially is giving value, verse being a line or a sentence of beneficial words. So, value verse being beneficial words. To hear, and verse also is like a universe or a value verse, so you get that double meaning in there. But it's just a way that I can have people on there to provide takeaways and add value to people, and have just open, honest conversations about the struggles of work and life, and provide takeaways and how others can get benefit from it. So it's important to you go through a process where you absorb and you learn so much that only then, when you are in this phase that you've done that, can you give back, right? So it's important as a leader or anybody in your space to have that. You owe it to yourself and to the people that are around you to do that for yourself, and to do it for them. To be able to give back.
Absolutely. Is your Instagram the best place that we can find and follow and connect with you moving forward, right at ValueVerse?
Yeah, I'm active on there, and that's just at ValueVerse.
Okay. You got an amazing mission. You got a lot to share. I've checked out the content, guys. You got to go see it. There's regular posts on there. Check out your podcast, ValueVerse, as well. Are you on all podcasting platforms?
All the platforms, yep. Apple, Google, Spotify are main ones, and there's a few more as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, my friend. I'm going to check those out. And like you said, I'd love to be a guest on your show too. It'd be a pleasure.
Oh, definitely, man. Looking forward to it.
Very cool. Go check Kawan out at ValueVerse. What a conversation this has been. I'm going to include links in the description so you make it easy for you. Just click the link to go visit Kawan, see everything he's doing with ValueVerse. And you always ask, what's the best way to support this show? Share this show with one friend who could use all these tips on fitness, on personal development, on self-mastery, on starting the journey, but also on continuing the journey into business, into improving your life even further. So many different talking points. Just share this with one person who could use this advice to help them change their life. Kawan, thank you so much for your time, brother. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Brandon. It's been awesome.